Hello everybody, welcome back to Creating Hanley. This star right here is called the puzzle star. And it's only partially put together, and we're going to show you how to do this. And this is the directions right here, the puzzle star from this book, 1000 Quilt Blocks. That is how it looks, all put together in the picture there. That is the, hopefully you can read that, the black and cream print. 2 squares labeled A, 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. 3 squares, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, labeled B. Gold tone, gold on gold, is 2 squares, 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. And the green stripe is 4 squares by 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. So you can see that little block assembly there. And then down at the bottom of the page, you can see the whole quilt put together. Hello, welcome back to Creating Hanley, everybody. My name is Kimberly here at Creating Hanley, and in today's episode, we are making this puzzle star. So, I have my pieces cut already, and I labeled them, and this is what it looks like here, and I even labeled the letters on each square that I cut. So they're all ready to go. Have a nice, neat little package. This is how much one 12.5-inch square blocks takes. This is almost finished. So I'm going to do this a little bit backwards for you. Let me bring this over to the side. Perhaps you can see it a little bit better. From the side, maybe? Or maybe let's lift this up. Puzzle star block. Now, I used different colors from the book, and that's okay. You can do that. My colors are pretty close, but I don't have black, so I used brown instead. But I still have a cream background. I still have gold. This is my gold, maybe orangish. And I still have green. It's not green stripe, but it's green sort of stripe. And this is my black. I used a brown with a gold in it. So these are all batiks. You don't have to use batiks. But I wanted to show you that for an extended period of time because that's your template. So if you want to, you can always buy the book. This is the book that I'm using, Giving Credit Where Credit's Due, 1000 Blocks, Quilt Makers. This is my inspiration for this year's Sew a Year Full of Stars 2 in year 2025. This block is our 4th week of the month in May. So that would be May 22nd of 2025. So let's get into this. So what I did so far, now I did not put this whole block together, but let me show you. There are 16 units here. So if I explode these out, you can see I made units, all right? Now I'm just going to try to put this in a position where maybe you can see that. I'm going to move this block back a little bit. I'm going to get these things out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to explode this apart. So you can see these are the units we are going to be making. Each one of these little units. It's like a quarter square triangle with a half square. So it's quarter square, half square triangle. And most of this star is this construction of a block. Now we do have 4 of these half square triangles only, but the majority of them are the quarter square triangles with a half square, with a half triangle. Okay, so that is how we're going to do this. Now, I figured out why it's called Puzzle Star. It's called Puzzle Star because we cut these squares, and then we cut these squares into triangles. Sometimes 2 triangles, sometimes 4 triangles. So we either cut these in half diagonally, or we cut these in half diagonally and diagonally, okay? So we're going to get into that. But, so right now I don't have a completed star because I only make 2 at a time. And this one I was making, obviously you could see, but I wanted to stop right here so that we kind of work backwards. Because once you get to this point, then it's easy to finish making the star. At this point, you can make 4 patches of the 16, right? You can make 4 patches. And then you just put those 4 corners together. So you would just put these together. So you would just, you know, top over the bottom. So that 1/4 inch. You open this up, iron the seams, and then you have these 2 pieces together, and then you put that unit on top of that, sew your 1/4 inch, open it up, iron the seam, and then you have this patch right here. You do that 4 times, and now you have a 4 patch. And then you just simply put your 4 patch together so that you create a seam here, you create a seam there, and then you just put these 2 rows together, boom. And then you have your completed block, 12.5 inch. Okay, so that's at the end. Now let's get to the beginning part, okay? Because that's why I figured out it's called a puzzle. Because you're actually going to be cutting all these pieces, and then you put them in place, and then you sew them together, which is not normally how we do quilting. If we do a half square triangle, we usually sew it first, and then cut it, trim it, open it, and then we put those in the block. But that's not how we're doing it. We're actually making a puzzle. So if you like puzzles and you like quilting, this puzzle star is for you. All right, so I'm going to set this aside because I just showed you how to put, once you get to this point, you have 16 units. Once you get here, then you just make a 4 patch, and then you put your 4 patch together, and then you have your finished star. But now we have to work on this. After you've cut out all your squares, and after you've labeled them all, so that you don't get them confused, but you won't really get them confused because they're all pretty much the same size. But you only need 3 colors, okay? And if you follow along in here, the directions don't even tell you how to do this. Like, this is the directions, and all it says is to make this half square triangle, HST. And then the rest of it, you just have to figure it out. So it's kind of like looking at the puzzle box top and figuring out how to put the puzzle together. That's exactly, this is exactly what it is, okay? So let's get into the cutting, and then we'll do the puzzles. And then once you do that, then I'm going to let you sew it. I mean, I'll show you how to do a couple of pieces to get to this point, but then you're on your own. Like, you'll know what to do. It'll be easy, okay? So I'm just going to kind of stack these up to get them out of the way a little bit, but I don't want to get them confused because, like I said, it is a puzzle, and it might take a little bit of time to figure it out again. Not a whole lot. I mean, not a whole lot of time, just a little bit. So anyway, I have my A's cut right here. I'm going to lay those out. I have my C's right here, and I have my B's here. Okay. So in the directions, in this book, if you're following along in this book, these little boxes right here tell you how to cut, maybe not trim, but how to cut those squares. So all the C's, you just cut once diagonally, and the B's, you cut twice diagonally. Okay? All right. So okay, so let's take the C's. So here are my C's. Now first I'm going to say from here, pair the black A's with the cream A's to make 4 triangles. So you should have 2 of 2, the black A's and the cream A's. So again, I'm using the brown with a gold fleck. So I'm just going to take my 2 dark A's, lay them face side up, and take my 2 cream A's or light A's and put them face side down. And these are going to be my 4 half square triangles. So, take your straight edge, take your pencil, and draw a line diagonal. Just draw a line. Don't cut anything. Draw a line diagonal once in one direction on both of them. And then we take this to the sewing machine and we cut 1/4 inch on both sides of the drawn line. Okay? So, you already know how to do this. We've done this a million times. At least 100 times. I'm not kidding. I have 300 videos. At least 100 of those videos contain a half square triangle. I'm pretty sure the majority of the videos this year contain half square triangles. So, you know, we've done that a bunch of times on this channel. So, pretty much any video you run into, we're going to make half square triangles. So you should be really good at making half square triangles. In fact, most quilters make a lot of half square triangles anyway. All right. So just 2 blocks will yield you 4 half square triangles when you sew 1/4 inch on each side of the line. And then you cut right down on that line to separate the 4 HSTs. Okay. And then I take it over to the ironing board and I iron the dark side, the seam to the dark side. Okay. And that way it ensures that you're not going to get a shadow underneath your cream fabric. You won't get that dark shadow underneath your cream fabric. It also keeps things in order too, because now you know all these sides are going in the same direction. Now you can't even see my iron over here. Okay. Like so. All right, now let's take you back over to the board and let's start assembling this now. Okay, so now that I have my corners, what you could do if you wanted to is trim it up, and you could take your rotary blade, and these are going to be 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares, and you can trim off the dog ears. 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch squares. And if you need to, you can square the block up to make sure it is 3.5 by 3.5 inch. Okay, I'm just gonna trim off these, and I usually take scissors to these little dog ears, but today I'm just gonna do it this way real quick for you. All right, boom, and that's done. Now these are the 4 corners. And that is the easiest part of the whole thing right now. Now, it's not difficult, but it's a little bit time consuming. So like I said, if you like putting puzzles together, you're going to like this puzzle star. Now, these are the 4 corners, and the dark goes to the outside. So the light goes to the inside, and the dark points away. So you can put them in sort of in place right now, but just, you know, if they're in your way, just set them aside. Okay, now the bees. The 3 cream bees and the 3 dark bees, you are going to cut these diagonal twice. So make sure they are lined up on top of each other perfectly. And I actually might be able to cut through all 6 layers. If I only have a 45 millimeter blade. If you have a 60 millimeter blade, you can cut through all 6 layers easily. But I'm going to try this Let's see how well it works. Okay. And these are not squared up very well. So let me really try to do a good job here. That's probably as good as it's gonna get for now. Yeah. So a 60mm blade would be better. I'm gonna leave that right there. Move my straight edge. Put that right in the corner and then very slowly cut through all layers. Boom. There you go. Okay. Now, you can set these aside for now. We want to cut the C's. Now each C gets one trim, and these should be the same size as well. So I have 4 greens and 2 golds. And again, you want to line up everything to make sure everything is stacked exactly perfectly. And I wonder if I can, that's all right. Okay. Now, if you want to get fancy, you can take 2 of these greens and turn them a quarter. I think if you turn them a quarter turn, maybe if you turn them a quarter turn, they're going to be in the same, but I'm not really sure. I don't know. I already did it now, so let's see. It'll be an experiment. We'll see how that works out. So we're just going to do 1 slice from corner to corner. And that's all we need for that, okay? Now, here's the fun part. Now we lay out our puzzle. Now we have all our puzzle pieces, and we just lay this out. So I'm going to leave the camera right there. And I'm going to use you can see my template right here, this or this. I'm going to use this for my template, this part or maybe this one. But we only have 4 of these gold square or triangles now. And we should have 8 of these green ones. Okay. So I'm going to start with the gold in the top left corner. And I'm going to use this top left corner block as my anchor. And I'm going to take 1 gold and I'm going to place the short side against that. The long edge is going to be surface for 2 of these. Green, your tan and dark color. So it's black for you, it's brown for me. So I'm going to place how am I going to do this? See, here's where the puzzle comes into play. Here we go. So the long edge of this little brown piece goes out. And then the same with the long top of the cream goes to the top. So that makes a square. All right, I'm going to bring this up so you can see that. See how that makes a square? When you put these 2 together. Now we have definitely done this block before. Okay? You see how that works? Pay attention to that. We're going to do that often. Pretty much all the rest of the blocks are going to be like that. Okay. So now so each row, we have 4 rows. Each row has 4 blocks. So we're going to be making 16 of these units. Now the next one is green. So we have gold, and now we need a green. And the green is the mirror image of the one we just made. So now the green goes like this. The long edge faces in, and the brown or the dark creates a diamond, okay? So that creates a diamond. And that means this space up here, and the only one left is the cream. And the long cream edge creates the top square. Creates the top of the square for that unit. Okay? Now we gotta do that again down here. Or you go around and then you fill in the middle. However you want to do that. The middle is a pinwheel. And as you can see in the book, the middle is a pinwheel, but the edges extend the pinwheel like leaf, I guess. Okay. So we're back to the gold. The gold points in and the long edge creates a space for our dark. So we have this pointing, the point pointing in, the point pointing in. So now we have created that block. Now we need a green. Okay, so we grab a green and it's the same thing. We need to create space for our block. And this creates a diamond. The dark creates a diamond. And then the cream just fills in at the top to make that square. All right. And then we keep going around. So now we get our gold again. Set that here. And here's the last gold. I'm just going to put that right there. Okay. Now we have our cream and our dark. So our dark comes here. We want to create that space for a diamond. And then we come in with the cream and the cream. And now this needs a green. All right, so green, just like so. We make that block. All right, you got it. Okay. Now I know this is a little bit difficult to see because it's far away. It would be better if it was overhead, but it's at the side and I know it's at an angle too. So I know so I'm going a little bit slow so you can get it, hopefully. Okay. And now again, we have the gold. We're doing the same thing. So grab your stack of dark and we're creating that space so that we create this diamond right here. Okay. And then we have our finishing background. And if you want to, you can put this in place too. And then we know a green goes in this spot right there. The green goes right here. So voila. And that finishes the outer circle or the outer rim. Now we just have to do the inside and all we have left is the greens and the darks and the creams. Okay. So if you want to, you can start with a green anywhere along here to match that up. So you want to find a matching stripe, I guess. And I guess that quarter turn helped. And then you want to create this long edge right here so that you can put a dark and a light down. So again, the same thing. You want to create that space to match up the top block and then the long edge right here to match up on the next block, which is going to be a green. And a green goes, let's see, right here. Okay, maybe I could try this one and that matches up the green stripe. So that quarter turn really helped. I took two and I made a quarter turn and that really helped to line these up. So if I do this all the way down, that looks like I'm going to be able to line up all of the stripes. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that works. Okay. I actually think that works out very well. So that tip that I did, that quarter turn, go ahead and do that. That seems to work out very well. All right, so now all I have left are the backgrounds. So you take your darks and I only have 3 left. You take your darks and your lights and you create, let's see, this goes here. So the dark goes against the green, and then the background goes against the outside layer. The background goes against the outside layer, the background goes against the outside layer, and then you have your darks, and they fit in that puzzle space right there. And that, my friends, is how you puzzle this star together. Now, if you don't see the pattern yet, just gently push these close together. Now remember, your outside corners are already sewn together, so they're going to be a little bit smaller because of the seam allowance. But that's okay, because it gives you good anchor. And then you just make sure in the middle your pinwheel lines up perfectly. This pinwheel lines up, okay? And that these corners are all flowing in the same direction. And then you push these outside layers together and you should be able to see the pattern. And then look at it very closely so that if anything looks out of place or looks a little bit weird, that you can catch it before you sew everything together. And I think we got it. Now I'm going to fly this overhead for you. There you go, guys. Now, do you see that quarter turn for the stripe really helped the green? So take 2 and do a quarter turn and your stripes will match up. Do you see how the green stripes? Now, mine are not stripes. This is batik, but they're kind of dotted in lines. Nice. And that's how that looks. Now, one more step before we end this video. I'm going to fly you back down here. I want you to explode these out in 4s. Okay? In your 4 patches. Now you're going to take, I don't know, what can you see the best? Maybe this one. Maybe you can see this one the best. Now you're going to take a patch. I'm going to call these patches. You're going to take a patch. You're going to take your light over your dark and line that up perfectly. So a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here on this edge, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then when you open that up, now you have a mirror image of this triangle. You take this triangle face side down, line up this edge, sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, open that up, iron it, and this is what you have. Okay? This turns into this. All right? Now you do that, 12 more times. You do that 12 more times. You take each square, each unit by itself so you don't mess anything up, because I did mess up a couple things a couple times. So take your dark on the bottom, take your light over the dark, 1/4 inch seam allowance, iron that open, flatten that seam, take the next triangle, seam, iron. And that's where you get this, okay? Then you have that right there. And then you do the same thing down here. Line that up, 1/4 inch, iron it open, flatten it out. Now, you could do chain piecing if you want. You could take all of these and chain piece them all the way through if you want. And then once you get all the blacks and creams done, or your dark and lights done, then you can start putting on the triangles. If you can keep that straight in your head, feel free to do that. I like to only do like 2 or 3 at a time. I would take this through, boom. I would take this through, boom. When this came out at the end, I would then grab this triangle and then put this through. When this came out at the end, I would grab this triangle and boom, do that. And then I would take this through, Okay, and then I would cut off that one and then put this on. Do you see how that works? So I kept it all straight in my head so I didn't get anything messed up. And that is why this is called the puzzle star, because you have to puzzle each piece together, each unit together. And once you get these 16 units made, well, these are 12. You get 12 of these made and 4 of these. So then you have 16 units. And once you have that done, you puzzle it in the right place, and then you start putting 4 patches together. I find that easier. Now, if you want to, you can do the rows. You can put these rows together. You could do that if you want to. And then you would just sew the rows together, right? You could do that, absolutely. But I find it's a little bit easier to make a 4 patch, and then you just put the 4 patches together, and then you're done. And then you have your whole unit. And I'm sorry I don't have one because I only make 2. But yeah, it's a puzzle. So that's why it's called the puzzle star. You guys, have fun making this. It's only 3 colors. How many fingers do I have right here? It's only 3 colors, and the gold is very little. You have more green in the background color, and you're dark. I'm calling this dark. Now you can use black in the book. It has black. I used brown. You can use gray. You can steel gray. You can use navy blue, red, whatever color works for you. Have fun. All right, you guys. Have fun making this one. I'll see you on the and now remember, this is the 4th week of May. And so we have 2 more to do in June, and then we'll reassess. That should be done with the series. Now, I actually have 3 stars left. So I don't know. Maybe I miscounted, or maybe I skipped one, or I added one extra. I probably did that. But yeah, we have some couple really cool stars coming up. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.